Good morning. It is Tuesday, June 6th. We're here for our regularly scheduled county commissioner meeting, and we have a full slate of commissioners. We have our administrator, and we have the clerk of the board. At this time, I'll call the meeting to order and ask everybody to please rise and join in the pledge. All right, the first item on the agenda is the approval of the meeting minutes for May 9th and May 23rd. Is there any additions, revisions, or corrections?
No.
Okay. Next, we'll move down to the approval of the vouchers.
So we have one voucher before us today.
Two.
All right, thank you. Two vouchers, fund expenditures. Move for approval of fund expenditures in a total amount of $728,240.33 as presented, and note that it has been reviewed and signed by two representatives of the auditor's office and the county administrator.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Move for approval of salary clearing, payroll, and emergency management. Public dispense.
Yeah, special run. Public defense.
Move for approval of public defense special run in the amount of $71,929.11 as presented.
If I may, I'd just like to take a look at that quickly.
And it has been reviewed by two members of the auditor's office.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second for the public defense special run. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Moves us down to regular business. Certificate of Appreciation. Commander Steven Stottlemyre. Are you going to do this,
Yes,
Mr. Gonzalez?
I have that recognition here, so I'll read it. This is for Steven Stottlemyre for 8 years of service to Franklin County. And it says, Dear Mr. Stottlemyre, on behalf of Franklin County, we'd like to express our gratitude for your faithful service with the Franklin County Sheriff's Department from January 1st of 2015 through January 30th. June 30th of 2023, your contributions to the county and your years of service have been invaluable. And I think he's here, is he not? Oh, there he is. Okay. And I would really appreciate it. I had the chance to meet him for the first time yesterday, and I can say as a son of a corrections officer, you know, have a lot of respect for everybody in the Sheriff's Department. So let me represent this.
Commissioners, while he's presenting that, I want to make a few statements about Steve. Steve and I met in late 2014. Commander Childs of the Kennewick Police Department said, hey, Raymond, you need to go see this guy if you want to bring about reform. If you want to bring about reform in the Franklin County Jail. So when I took over as the sheriff in 2015, our jail was under federal decree. It was being ran by the federal courts, and for a lack of better words, we were being sued out the wazoo because of things that were taking place in the jail. Steve made a decision to come to work for me as a commander, and we went about taking care of business in the jail. So just some highlights about Steve. One, he has about 40-plus years of law enforcement experience. Two, when he came in The first thing he did was he developed a brand-new set of policies and practices and procedures in the jail that met National Institute of Correction standards and also WASPIC standards. Implemented training from the ground up, brought order and control in the jail, and in his spare time started increasing revenues that came into the county through the jail at usually about $1 million plus a year coming into the jail. So what he's done in the span of 8 years is actually remarkable. He has saved the citizens of this county countless dollars, and he's done it with professionalism and integrity and honesty, and we're going to miss him in the sheriff's office. I couldn't have asked for a better commander to run the Franklin County Jail.
And I'd just like to say thank you for your years of service here for Franklin County. Any other commissioners like to say something?
I would note that having been here for a while and seen a number of people come and go, all of them good people in their own fashion, but some of them, a small minority, are change advocates, are people who you don't see and hear a lot. What you see and hear are the results of their being here, and that's how I have observed you, sir, over the years. Is that you were one of the quiet, competent, get it done people, and I think one of the greatest threats, frankly, and challenges to county government here was our status with the federal courts and the disaster that I think our jail was at the time. And I don't place that on the shoulders of the men and women who are working the facility. I place it on the county for not providing the kind of exceptional leadership that a high-risk facility like that requires. I think we were exceptionally fortunate with your background at the state level in training and corrections to attract you here. I'm not sure what brought you here. Maybe it was Sheriff Raymond's magnanimous personality. Whatever it was, we are especially fortunate, and I'm personally grateful for the turnaround. You've made just one heck of a difference. So thank you.
Thank you for your time and your service. After taking the tour of the jail, I couldn't be more impressed. And they pointed out all the improvements that you made, and I just want to say great job and thank you.
Sir, yeah, appreciate it. Moves us down to the short plat 2023-08. Mr. Bratton.
Thank you, Chair. This is a lot what we call a lot deviation request. Under Franklin County Code, the creation of a lot must meet certain dimensional requirements and or frontage requirements. In this case, the applicant is seeking to develop or subdivide a parcel out in the blocks, and I'll have that up here just a second. Okay, thought that was already zoomed in. Any idea why this isn't zooming anymore? Oh, okay, got it manually. Okay.
That good?
Yeah, but see, it's not, that is not a block. There's something scaling out wrong.
I think it's because it's on a picture, not an actual map.
It's supposed to be Map Sifter. Yeah, let me. Yep. No, yeah, I've never seen it do this to me while I was trying to use it.
You want the tax parcel number? You got
I've
it?
got it. Thank you. Yeah, but that is way there. All right, I guess that'll work. So that's the general location. It's out there and way out in the AP 40. Snake River's underneath that drop down. Oh, make it go away. So this is a request on short plat 2023-08. It's a 42.52 acre parcel, and they're seeking to create one lot for buildable lot. The property also, and this is part of the request, is that lighter gray along the northwest boundary. That's a runway strip. So it runs down to just, is that clicker? I'm sorry. Is it over here? So the runway ends right there. And the request is they would desire to bring their access in here and then up, wrapping it around and then creating there's a flat leveling out. This is a significant grade increase from here to here, but that's a flat spot on the property and it's outside of the runway alignment. Hence the request to put in so the parcel is approximately right here, and the request is that their frontage would be the access, 20-foot access that comes in and goes up like that. Any other direction would potentially interfere with the runway, and hence the request for the narrow. Under Franklin County Code, such a request has to be brought to the board for approval because it is a deviation from the 80-foot minimum road frontage requirement. All other aspects of the request meets code. It's just that frontage element. So those are brought to the board. One of the things also that's a little different this time is that normally it's been by voice vote. I've always felt a little weird about that, so I've included a resolution. If this is acceptable for the board, I would request it from here on out that we have a resolution, and that way it just goes in the file and it's cleaner that way. So any questions? These are always a little
Questions, Commissioners?
obtuse.
So Derek, I agree with you on the resolution point. I think that's a good change. We should do that. Having a special passion for airports, the last thing I want to do is interfere with somebody's ability to use an airport. I am curious, not so much directly on this particular application, but in general terms of policy, the frontage requirement that we've established by policy, what is the benefit to the people and to the county of having that? And I ask that because when you do something different, then you really kind of need to look to what was the intended benefit of it, and are you really losing that benefit? In this case, I doubt we are, but.
Right. Where you're going to see that concern is more in the higher density areas where we have the lots right next to one another. And it really is, there's a few things. One, by having that width of 80 foot generally on a lot that's over 25,000 square foot, it's one, aesthetics, so there's consistency across the line.
Sure.
Also, it helps ensure that, any proposed structures are going to meet the setback requirements. But it's often common the case in, say, in an urban setting for you to have 45-foot lot frontage. So, so it's mostly not mostly, but it's, my experience with it's primarily been almost a consistency aesthetics thing.
Yeah, okay, I've observed that as well. We have a number of lots in the urban areas that are narrow and deep, and they'll
Right.
be divided, and the back half will be a lot, and then we run a flagpole down one side, figuratively speaking, just like this one, so.
And that is my understanding is the primary purpose for the allowance is for those circumstances on a case-by-case
Okay.
basis.
Well, if you required the full width on this, you'd be destroying the aesthetics of a perfectly good runway, and that's unacceptable, so I'm happy to support this, thanks.
I have no questions.
I see it's 97 feet away from the runway. Does that meet all the regulations as far as a house?
And yeah. I mean, this is a private runway operated by,
Right.
so, yeah, they tend to get the owners tend to live closer because they control the airplane.
Okay.
So it's not generally a problem. Plus, it's not in alignment with the runway. It's off to the side.
Yeah, I don't have a problem. So if there's no more discussion, I'd entertain a motion.
Move for approval of Resolution 2023-166 in the matter of short plat 2023-08, deviation of road frontage requirements for Mr. Halstrom.
Second?
There's been a motion and a second for Resolution 2023-166. All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you.
Takes us down to C, which is hire an accounting specialist in Public Works, grade 15, step 3. Mr. Erdman.
Yes, have made an offer to an accounting specialist to backfill a position that we're going to have a person retire shortly. The reason we're asking for step 3 is that this person brings a unique skill set that we don't often get come to us. She has significant experience in county financial matters and accounting, and we feel that we'll save approximately $10,000 in salary with her hire, as well as some hidden costs such as the ability to hit the ground running. Our learning curve is looking to be a lot flatter with her. So, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Questions, commissioners?
So, good morning, Mr. Erdman.
Good morning.
In the fiscal impact block, it provides some interesting historical context about how much money has been saved by not filling certain positions. And while I appreciate the information and it's relevant to your office, it's not really relevant to this particular question because those funds aren't going to offset this position. You said you have a vacancy coming up. Are you going to retain that position that is becoming vacant, or is that position going away?
We'll retain it. This is really kind of to preemptively backfill it. Those positions in our finance department take a little bit of ramping up and training. However, like I said, this candidate comes with quite a lot of experience up front that in county accounting that we don't normally see.
Okay, so we're not changing the number of positions, so maybe you could help me understand where the $10,000 cost savings comes from.
It will be the differential in the salary from the employee that's retiring versus the salary of this person that we wish to bring on.
So you'll have a temporary reduction until that person moves up?
Correct. And then it should come back down to,
It should come back to about where it is now?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, well, thanks for the clarification. And I recognize how difficult it is to find good people, especially in the financial and IT world where both of them are in fairly high demand, so appreciate it. Thanks.
Any questions?
So how long has this job posting been out? I mean, are you pulling somebody from somewhere else in the courthouse?
no, this is somebody actually from Pierce County.
Okay.
And that's a rare for us to pull somebody. But she moved into the area and was looking for work, and we had a position open, and we'd be glad to have her.
All right. Thank you.
When's the current person retiring?
We're not sure. We don't have a final date yet, but it'll be before the end of this year.
Okay. All righty. If there are no more questions, I'll entertain a motion.
Just one more, to be clear, the reference to the person that is retiring, that seems relevant for the overlap in the training, but there's no overlap in the positions or the finances. Those are separate matters.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, thanks. Package if you want a motion.
Move for approval of sorry. Franklin County Resolution 2023-168 as presented.
Excuse me, it's 167. 168 would be the next item on the agenda. I've got accounting specialist and public works at resolution 2023-167.
The read ahead, or the documents in front of us say Public Works position, and they're stamped with 2023-168, so maybe the clerk could just take a look and see which number is correct.
And I'm basing my information off of our agenda. It could be. It's a mix-up. Okay. All righty, just to clarify.
I think
then we are at
168 is the correct resolution. I'll second.
Been a motion and a second for resolution 2023-168. All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. Now, next we'll move down to hire an administration assistant, grade 14, step 4, and I take resolution 2023-167. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. All righty. Mr. Gonzalez.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. This is a position in my office that is vacant at the time, so we're asking to take this grade 14 step 4. That would be an increase. The fiscal impact is $5,880. I think we need to approve this higher wage just to get a little bit higher quality candidate. The interesting thing, an internal candidate has come forward, but it's also created a lot of questions for myself as administrator, and some really good conversations between the department that this person would come from. And I think ultimately what it's done, it's shed light on a pay issue that we have here. And this internal candidate, I've got some notes here, has an education and skill sets that are beyond her current pay grade right now. So it's really interesting. This person has a 4-year degree, is doing really high-level service in this department, but is being paid just a little bit more than she could be working at a fast food restaurant. So, she's willing, to move into a different department to make more money because this other department simply can't afford somebody with her skill sets. So it's really a tricky thing here. So I certainly don't want to create discontent within a department. Ultimately it's going to come to if this individual wants to leave that department. But, all indications is that this individual is pretty happy in the department, but I think it really emphasizes the importance on our salary structure study and our work that we're going to do with Consor, and the real necessity to come up with a new grading system and step system here. So, what I would like to propose to the commissioners are sort of a right of first refusal for this individual. And I don't know if this needs to be codified in an ordinance of some sort, but, if a person is wanting or willing to move interdepartmentally for a step increase, this department should have that right of first refusal to offer that same salary or perhaps exceed it. I think this will create continuity of service and certainly goodwill, because I don't want to be the administrator that comes in and starts to cherry pick from other departments. With that being said, I'd certainly love this individual. Fantastic. But and I think the larger thing is it shows that this person wants to stay in Franklin County because it's a good place to work, despite what you hear in the public and in the media. When I walk these halls, it's a good feeling. You know, when I walk into the departments, there's good energy. So this person willing to stay at Franklin County, I think, says a lot. But I also want to keep the continuity of services. I would love this person, but I want to give that director the opportunity to keep this individual. So a little bit of mixed emotions here, commissioners, certainly.
Questions? One I've got, we've been talking about departments and a retention fund, and that would come out of the ARPA funds.
Right.
And I think that is where we could look to for these departments to where if that does happen, like this situation, then that department has the ability then to move that person into that same grade and pay structure. And that way, if they still want to leave, then
Right.
that's a reflection of the leadership of that department. And
I think that's accurate. I honestly think that retention pay will do a lot for morale, and you know, in particular, the cancellation of the Gallagher study, which took many months to roll out, where we finally decided to cancel it. So that would send the message to our employees that, look, we're here for you. We care about your service. We appreciate you. You know, give us several months to get this in order, and in the meantime, you know, here's a bit of a bonus for your services. Certainly there'll be some caveats to that. We don't want to give people money and then they take off to another jurisdiction or another job. So, but the really positive thing is we've engaged with all the unions. They're on board. I've talked to each elected official, department heads, and the feeling on that has been really positive. So I think it's the right thing to do. And when you think about ARPA funding, that was the initial intent, was to retain employees. And I think it would be certainly a good use of funds, in particular with the feds looking at clawback initiatives and things like that. So that's really my perspective on things.
thank you.
So what specifically is the ask today? Is it grade 14, step 4? Is it the first right of refusal for the current office? What are you looking for? We have a resolution.
I think kind of a
that is the
combination.
14. Well, we've got a resolution number 167
Excuse me.
that only addresses the grade 14, step 4. So if we approve that, it's
Yeah.
just the grade 14, step 4.
Yes, sir. I think that's the initial first step, but I kind of wanted to get the conversation started, you know, in terms of that right of first refusal. So I think the ask today is to establish that 14.4, and then maybe our next meeting, perhaps if we can get some language together with the civil department, you know, if that's a policy that we can enact, because I want to be pretty methodical about this before we make a rash decision, and because I'm being really conscious about this department, because I want to make sure that we're not cherry picking individuals. So I think that really is the first step, and then
Okay, well,
kinda go
that
back
answers
and-
the question. It's a 14.4, and it's
Yes,
the
sir.
action that's in here. So let me speak to your other comments there, which are not up for action today, as you've just described. I very much like, probably more than a year ago, I cautioned the board about doing one-off reviews on employee positions and salary increases, because we have a number of bargaining units whose employees are watching these, and we're creating an expectation for other similarly situated employees that they would get the same treatment. That's been a very costly process over the last year. That led us to looking at hiring a contractor to come in and do a wage study. The majority of the voices in the county, and to a certain extent I agree, that the Gallagher approach was going to be not as quick or comprehensive as we needed. And so we needed another opportunity to identify whether or not we're compensating our employees fairly. The idea of a right of first refusal implies to the department where the person is now that they could get a similar increase in monetary compensation. Now, if the two positions are both grade 14s and they're both close to the same step, then that might not be a problem. But you can imagine how if it was somebody in, say, a grade 12 and a step 4, that now you're upping the salary for a position that isn't graded for that amount of compensation, and you're doing it to retain that person, which you could do by moving them into the 14, but you'd be retaining them in a position that isn't graded high enough to cover that salary. And that effectively is the same thing as doing one-off increases for employees. So I think that first right, as much as I appreciate your effort to find something that works for everybody, that first right notion, at least in some cases, is going to be really problematic. And second, with respect to retention and ARPA funds, yes, ARPA funds are partly intended to improve retention or maintain retention, but I don't know that it was envisioned as payouts to individuals. And my concern here, again, is employee equity, just like it was with doing one-off position increases. The several bargaining units and the electeds that you spoke to, as you said, were all in favor of it. And I expect that most supervisors and union bargaining reps would be in favor of the county offering their people more money. That's sort of a given. Where it gets sticky is when you start deciding who gets the money and how much, and does everybody get some, and does everybody get the same amount? And if everybody gets the same amount, now you've really kind of lost the retention benefit. Typically, these are targeted to positions that are difficult to fill, short supply, planning, engineers, attorneys, others, and that's targeted. And once you start doing those kinds of targeted retentions, you get the chorus of voices saying, what about me? And it creates a lot more contention than I think, well, you've already spoken to the fact that you're trying to minimize that, and I'm offering it. I think that approach is going to create a lot more contention than anything else. So just want to, I guess, put that on the record and offer it, having seen a few ups and downs in employee cycles, including the 2010 reduction in force of about 10% of our workforce. These really are sensitive, difficult topics. So I think I can get to the grade 14 step 4 based on the diversity of tasks and the necessity in the commissioner's office to deal with people, all different quarters with all different issues. But on the rest of it, I just want to say up front, before we even get to a discussion next week or the week after, that I see those inherent issues, and you might think about those.
I definitely will, and appreciate your comments, Commissioner. A couple things I wanted to add in regard to what you said. In terms of a department like the auditor's office, some of these tasks that people are tasked with, you have people doing really high-level work, making really minimal pay. Our financial directors, I mean, he's well compensated in many areas, but when you look at the open market, it's pretty paltry in comparison. So, but hopefully our Consor study will address those needs. And in regards to the ARPA funding,
Excuse me, is Consor going to look at grades and salaries?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good.
They are. So,
good.
So that's going to be part of the study. And in regards to the ARPA funding, because it is a kind of a tricky thing when you give money to folks, but the overwhelming, and I would say just about everybody thought we should give the same amount to everybody, and every employee, frontline employee certainly would get that, and because the impact to a lower paid employee would be obviously more than somebody that's higher paid. So that was essentially the consensus. But still, as we know, you can't make everybody happy, but we'll certainly try to send the message that we care about those individuals.
Well, if you're thinking about an across the board, that has less inherent risk, and you might consider doing it as a percentage against their base salary.
It's another good idea. So that was thrown out there. So certainly still a lot to be discussed, but the thing I'm really happy about is it's been met positively by the unions and by directors and elected officials, and overall I hope the employees really appreciate it.
Well, not to diminish the work that's been done, I'll just say that I've never met a union rep that was opposed to the government paying their people more money.
That's what I'm learning too.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I'll just close with this thought. There's really kind of a triangle here of key issues when it comes to compensation I've observed in running a county government and the budgets. If you want to keep things under control, you either have to constrain the size of government, constrain the compensation, or really look seriously about your priorities of government. And that's a little bit like constraining your government. But if we were to try and pay every one of our people what they are worth in the marketplace, taxes on citizens would go up exponentially, and people would be talking about doing levy lid lifts and looking for money to increase the burden, to bring more money into the county. I have always been and am still today of the opinion that you have to look first to what your core and primary missions are for the county under statute and make sure you've got those covered. And then anything beyond that, you need to make a real hard call about, do the citizens want us to increase taxes, or do they want us to cut functional areas that are not required? And I'm of the opinion that smaller is better when it comes to county government, and we ought to focus first on constraining the roles that we're taking on, and that would help us pay the employees who are here better. But that's just my philosophy, and it's what we did in 2010. Some people agreed with it, some didn't, and I'm sure we'll have the same discussion going forward. Thanks.
Absolutely, and Consor is going to take a look at all of that, and keep in context we're the fastest growing county in Washington State, so that level of service that meets demand, and while we keep it lean, so it's a balancing act, that's for sure.
Well, as your population grows, your tax base grows. And so the fact that we're the fastest growing increases the demand for service, but it also increases more revenue. So they go up together, and that analysis still applies. You have to look at, do you increase staffing and pay more, or do you cut government? So, but good discussion.
Yeah,
Thank you.
You got it.
And Mr. Gonzalez, Commissioner Mullen, do you have anything you want to add?
Just, how long do you think the salary study is going to take?
We think we could have it done by the end of the year, so beginning of 2024. So they're going to really start to hustle up and push it through. So that, at least that's the plan right now. You never know if it'll take a little bit longer, but some of the scope of the study, I've got some of the notes right here. So they'll start with stakeholder interviews, economic outlooks, peer county comparisons when it comes to costs, salaries, compensations, benefits. They'll do a revenue forecast, expense forecast, review of financial plans and policies, strategic priorities. They'll look at public safety, courts, community service, infrastructure. They'll look at what we're paying out to Benton County in terms of services and what kind of value we're getting out of Benton County, and could we have our own services within Franklin County that aren't duplicated or wasting money. So they're going to take a look at a broad spectrum of things. The thing in counties, you're limited how you can generate revenue. And, typically we can only expand 1% per year in terms of tax base, so that it makes it really difficult. I'm realizing quickly, City of Pasco, we were pretty robust on the tax rolls, comparatively speaking here. So it makes it a challenge, but, I do believe in lean, but I also believe we've got to provide the services, at the maximum optimum level that we can.
And perhaps
Anything
that's
else?
the only point of our discussion where we didn't line up is providing county services at the, quote, maximum optimum level. In my world is government that's grown too big. And I understand what you want to do. You want to provide world-class service to everybody and do it for as little money as possible. But as you've just articulated very well, that we're limited in county government by our ability to increase our actual revenues 1% a year, and that just doesn't keep up with a 9% inflation. So it forces us to either dramatically raise taxes or reduce government, and I think
Absolutely.
yeah, you're spot on. Thanks.
Thank Tim Eyman for that, right?
Anything else, Commissioner Mullen?
No, I just, I know it takes a lot of time to do this study. It's just, how do you handle the problems in the meantime for all of the salary?
It's a balancing act. I mean, the thing, in terms of the right of first refusal, I respect what Commissioner Peck said about that. Sometimes I think, what I'm learning internally is that we have a lot of happy people here,
Right.
and because we know in government we're not going to make as much as the private sector, or even when I go across the street to Pasco, they'll pay more to do the same job. But sometimes if we can give them just a little bit more, to say, hey, thank you, they'd rather stay in a department they like with people that they, you spend more time with your family sometimes, with your folks at work than you do with your family sometimes. So that's what I'm finding is that these departments, a lot of folks like it here and they want to stay, but sometimes that rubber meets the road where gosh dog it, I got to pay the bills too. So.
And in this inflation that we have going on right now, the lower grade 12, grade 13, grade 14 are
tough.
the ones that are having the hardest time. I, for one, would like to sort of put a hold on this until
Sure.
we can look at this a little bit further, because the way I understood it from our previous interim administrator is that we are bringing in some software in August that we may not need this position in the commissioner's office, that it may free up the other people.
That's a possibility, but I honestly, talking to the department head and knowing what's happening with this individual, there's not a super sense of urgency today to approve this. So I think it would be wise to put it on hold and I think have more conversation about, that right of first refusal and how that would work. Because, I don't want to send the message to the other departments that, Mike Gonzalez, the administrator, can arbitrarily get pay raises for positions. And, that creates discontent. And I certainly don't want that. And, but I do want a strategy if we have a key position that, we don't want to go to Benton County, who seems to be stealing a lot of our, and I say that with all due respects, I know they're watching, but it's just the reality,
Yeah. So we really don't need to make an action.
No,
on this
I would
today.
say, why don't we put this on hold and table it, and because I think there needs to be more discussion.
I think that'd be a wise move. Been a lot of conversation, a lot of phone
Yeah,
calls.
I
on
think
this.
I think it's a good conversation though.
Yep. All right, so we'll table that.
Mr. Chairman, this item is
Commissioner
on-
Peck, you got the floor.
This item is on the agenda for today. I think it requires a majority of the board to pull it or not consider it. So I'd appreciate hearing Commissioner Mullins' view, whether or not he too wants to pull it or wants to move forward with it.
I think we should pull it.
Okay, thank you. That's a majority.
Oh, thank you. Next, we have public comment. Anybody in the room for public comment? Anybody on the phone?
Hang on one second, let me check. No callers, sir.
No callers? I don't see nobody coming towards the mic. We'll move down to Commissioner Administrator updates. Mr. Gonzalez.
Thank you, Commissioner. Appreciate it. It's continue to be busy. Met with officials from Hospital District 1 in terms of some of the ARPA funding, with Lori Hales and Chief Ken Wolfenden. Got to meet them for the first time. Really good people, and we're really excited to help them out with some of their initiatives and their needs with ambulances. So that's really exciting. We talked about it a little bit, the ARPA funding, working with Jeff Briggs and Shirley Jones to get a lot of the ARPA funding designated and to get that out and allocated, because as a lot of people know, the feds are perhaps looking to claw that back, and we don't want that. We want to be impactful with the ARPA funds that we've got. Had a chance to visit the Franklin County Emergency Management Center. Really good folks out there. Met with Director Sean Davis, the Deputy Director Chris Lee, Program Coordinator Megan Woods. So had a chance to really talk about the things they do out there and how important Franklin County is to that, our deputies. So that was really great. .09 funds, those meetings continue to happen. We're going to meet with the Port of Pasco to kind of figure out the next direction on that. Been meeting quite a bit with the assessor. New evaluations came out, so there's been quite a discussion about that. Meeting with McKinstry on HAPO construction update. I had a chance to take a walkthrough of the HAPO Center and really see the progress that they're making. And the thing about that, the CETA stipulations, the Clean Energy Transformation Act, puts a lot of provisions on our building. So we're going to have to do a lot of those same things with our campus here. So keeping busy and having fun but I just want to send this message to the public. I really like the tone here in the courthouse. You know, we have good department heads. We have managers that have had long-term stability, and, you know, we have a really good vibe here. And I really want to send that message to the public because, you know, sometimes you read things in the paper and, you know, people come to me and say, oh, man, it's crazy there. It's not crazy. It's a great place to work. It really is. And we have great employees here.
Thank you. Commissioner Peck.
Fairly light week, a couple of constituent contacts on the shoreline plant update that Mr. Bratton's going to be talking to us about here fairly soon. Some HAPO Center issues and discussions, legislative update on the 2023 Public Records Act bills, HRA VIBA webinar, WASAC virtual assembly. Looking to the next week coming up here, Columbia River County's caucus tomorrow, Benton Franklin Recovery Coalition meeting Wednesday, and the Washington State Aviation Aerospace Economic Development Committee meeting Friday. Thank you.
Commissioner Mullen.
So I had the Greater Columbia Behavioral Health meeting. Healthcare Authority's been doing audits and got great reports on all 19 agencies. Still struggling with staffing issues, but they're still doing a good job. Like I said, staffing is extremely hard to get, and that's in every category today's world. Also had the Southeast Aging and Long-Term Care. They're starting a 2-year accountability audit, and they're also working on succession training with the cross-training of positions as more and more people are going to be retiring. They're looking to open an office in Pasco. And then also last week met with several county officials to fulfill the request from Commissioner Peck to do my homework. So with that, I'm going to ask Mike, what did you find out on the salaries?
Yes, as instructed, I did look into the salary issue, and I coordinated with our HR director, Margot Wilder, the auditor's office, Rosa Gomez, and also Sean Sant. And, you know, the question was, what do the commissioners get paid? And Commissioner Peck had stated that he was the lowest paid. And these are all facts. Commissioner Peck is paid exactly the same as Commissioner Didier and Commissioner Mullen, and has been for as long as you guys have been together on the commission. You guys are paid $94,325. And in speaking with the auditor's office, according to HR and the auditor's office, with the VIBA conversion to cash, Commissioner Peck is the highest wage earner. Third point, Commissioner Peck, he asked about frozen wages or mentioned that. He did, in fact, freeze his wages, 2013 to 2016 at $89,870. Another point, Commissioner Peck has been paid $94,325 since 2017, and that's what all three commissioners make, which is the same. Fifth point, coming from the auditor's office, because there's been a lot of talk about VIBA and what that conversion to cash means here at the county. So when it comes to VIBA conversion to cash, the Franklin County Auditor's Office does not consider this a fringe benefit. It's considered part of your wages, and that's why it's taxable. Auditor's Office said VIBA, not a fringe benefit. We consider it part of wage. Fringe benefits here at the county are typically county vehicles, cell phones. Moving expenses, when I asked the Auditor's Office if VIBA conversion to cash are considered part of one's salary, here at Franklin County, the answer was yes. VIBA is put into line 1 of your W-2. On the check stub, it says it's recorded as payback VIBA. So those are the facts.
So let me speak to that if I might. That last point I'd like to drill in on first. You said the auditor's office considers VEBA to be part of compensation salary?
Yeah, part of wages.
Part
and
of
salary.
wages. Part of wages, okay.
Yes.
Then I'd like you, going forward, to look at all of our VEBA changes mid-cycle, because if we've had any, they would be exactly the same scenario as what you're describing about cash in lieu of. If VEBA changes count the same as cash, then the allegations of the act in 2016 being improper would likely apply to any VEBA changes that also were done midterm for commissioners. So,
Right, when I talked to them, I wasn't even talking about any actions in 2016.
oh, I understand.
Yeah, the question was just what you guys get paid.
I understand. The issue
So-
here is, well, let me back up, get the important stuff out of the way.
Sure.
When we elevated all of our elected officials to something over $100,000 a year, at that time, when I checked the salaries, I was not a lot, but a little bit less than the other two commissioners. With the change of the new election cycle, that brought us all level. I overlooked that. My apologies for overlooking that. So in the future, I won't say I'm the lowest paid elected official. I will say I'm one of the three lowest paid in the county. As for the cash counting as salary, I think it is still prudent for us to wait and see what the AG and the legal folks who are reviewing this have to say. I'm frankly not interested nor willing to take legal counsel from the auditor's office. You stated that these are all facts. Well, the fact you stated is the auditor's opinion, so that part is a fact. But we've already, in my research, come across statutes that say that this, in fact, is not compensation. So as much as folks want to continue to repeat that it is wages, it is salary, and as clear as it is that that's the auditor's opinion, I still contend we wait and hear what the legal folks have to say. But this issue of, and correct me if I got this wrong, but it sounded like you said it is the auditor's opinion that VEBA is part of salary and wages, just like our basic pay.
Yeah, I don't know if that's an
and-
opinion. That's what they told me. You know,
Okay,
they
and-
didn't use the language opinion. They just
Here's
said
my
this is-
concern is that this board historically over the years has changed VEBA midterm, mid-cycle, and if it is in fact salary, then by the auditor's measure, every one of those would have been unconstitutional as well. And so that's something we need to look at and find
Yeah,
out.
certainly.
Find out
That's
what the truth
with,
is.
With the legal opinion, I think that would be important to get some of those things out of there. But
And lastly, I'd just note that in terms of total compensation, whether a person takes insurance plus VEBA, or just takes VEBA, or takes a taxable fringe benefit, the cost to the county and the taxpayers is the same in every case. And the issue of car allowances, which are taxable, probably under that same description, that same line of thinking, would also be salary. And therefore, those changes, including our current travel policy, would also likewise be unconstitutional. So since these are recorded, you'll be able to capture those questions. These are all things that I know the legal folks are looking at, but since you've raised them, I thought I would put that out there for the record, that we need to look at all those things and find out which ones
absolutely.
really are salary and which ones are taxable fringe benefits and which ones are reimbursements. So
I agree. We need to take a robust look at, what the issues are. And, I did reach out to some law firms that I know, and the Section 125 of the Internal Revenue Code, since cash in lieu of benefits payments are taxable, they must be included in a recipient's W-2 taxable wages. And that's the stance that we take here. It is, in fact, wage. Whether that's a fringe benefit somewhere else, I don't know. I just know what I asked our auditor's office and financial team here is we view it as salary and wages.
we is,
Okay.
who is we?
Excuse
Franklin
me,
County.
So-
excuse me, Commissioner Peck. In order to keep a meeting in order, I would ask, please, that we start addressing the chair in order to speak. I've let this go on way too long, and I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to shut it down if I don't get recognized as a chair to speak before we just start running our mouth. And I haven't even got to give my updates yet. We got all enthralled in this. And
Mr.
honestly,
Chairman,
I'm a little perturbed at the fact that we are going into such great detail of an abuse to our benefits package. And that's what it is. It's an abuse.
So, Mr. Chairman, I believe I did have the floor. I did
Well,
hear.
you never recognized the
I-
chair to even get the floor first, and I've let it go on too long, Commissioner Peck. So
So I
thank you
did-
for
I-
saying, Mr. Chairman, now you got the floor.
I did hear all that you said, and I think that having the chair function in that capacity is entirely appropriate once the body has adopted Robert's rules. I'll just
please.
close, Mr. Gonzalez, with those questions are in the recording. I understand that you've consulted outside legal counsel. Certainly, if you want to do that, that's fine. I'm well aware of the federal statute you're talking about. But federal statutes regarding how the IRS views compensation and who pays tax on what are not the same as the authority under ERISA, Obamacare, and other federal statutes that identify how benefits and taxable benefits in lieu of are handled. So there is a great complexity of legal stuff here to be looked through. I've attempted to look through it and frankly have just said, I'm going to wait for the people who actually went to law school. So thanks.
And I did have a conversation with Sean Sant, and he did acknowledge that they are wages within our structure in Franklin County also. So
Okay, getting back
He-
to
he-
the
Mr. Sant did?
Commissioner.
he did in a conversation with myself
Excuse
and
me.
Margot Wilder. Yes, sir.
Okay, thanks for putting that on the record.
Getting
Got
back
it.
to the Commissioner Administrator updates, I had Ben Franklin Workforce Development. Thursday morning, I had the meeting, same meeting with Mr. Gonzalez. I have fielded many phone calls on property tax assessments. People are very upset with the property tax assessments. I got a call from Fire District 4. I gave him your number, Mr. Gonzalez. He was wanting to know if it was too late for ARPA funds for Fire District 4. And probably the most important thing is today is a good day because it's Dwayne Davidson's birthday, and I want to wish him a happy birthday. He has rode in here and basically put this courthouse back in good working order and given Mr. Gonzalez the best possible chance of success. And I want to thank him and wish him a happy birthday. So with that, we'll move down to the elected and department head business. Is there any elected and department heads that would like to come forward with an engagement with the commissioners so we can interact?
First of all, Keelan Harmon that walked out the door here a few minutes ago, he is going to be the commander of the Franklin County Corrections Center effective July 1, and then there'll be some internal promotions that take place to backfill the void of Steve leaving. But I want to speak to you today about alleged overspending of budget items, my rogue behavior of overspending my budgets, et cetera, et cetera. Every year, I submit a comprehensive line-by-line budget to the commissioners and to the auditor's office of why line items need to be where they're set at. So in an effort to defend myself with my alleged overspending, which is coming from your auditor's office, I'm going to start going during this time and go through line items to explain to you how it is they end up over budget. So I'm going to start today with the line item of uniforms in the sheriff's office. 100 plus office employees are required to wear uniforms in the sheriff's office. That's either by contract, by revised Code of Washington law, or by Sheriff's Office policy or collective bargaining agreements. The sheriff sets the uniform standards for employees in the Franklin County Sheriff's Office, and it's outlined in policy. In 2022, the uniform budget for the Franklin County Sheriff's Office was approximately $70,000, a line item where uniforms, safety vests, shoes, gun leather, equipment is bought out of for the entire organization. In 2023, the auditor or commissioners decided it'd be a great idea to roll that line item back to $15,000. For me, that's fuzzy math. That's not going to work out. It's going to send that line item upside down, obviously. So in 2023, we now have an auditor's office telling my command staff that uniformed personnel will need to begin paying federal taxes on their uniforms, which is completely out of line and wrong, and there is no such rule. We have an auditor's office demanding lists of employees determine who is eligible or not eligible for uniform purchases. I'm the one that purchases the uniforms and ensures that my staff is properly uniformed with safety equipment. And instructing CBA employees that they are going to have to put in and pay taxes for their uniform pants. In 2014, when I entered this office, the Sheriff's Office had multiple findings from state audits. Since 2014, there has been no findings out of the state audit processes. That's zero. Each and every time they have come into the Sheriff's Office, we have been able to produce records, receipts, and accounting for our expenditures and our processes and our policies. An auditor and his accountant calling into question the Office of Sheriff's practices, running an accredited law enforcement agency, I'm a little bit perplexed with that. The newest acquisition is I'm always going over budget and expending budgets, which is going to prompt me to go back to the last 8 years of budgets that I have records of, and to tell you how much money has been returned in totality out of each of those budgets at year's end. So that'll come in the future. I start with this process because this is just one item that at the end of the year, it will be upside down. It will not be within the $15,000 line item that was someone decided that that's how it was going to be allocated. You don't just control cops' uniforms and say, no, you can't have a uniform because there's no money for it. It doesn't work that way. Never has in public safety and never will work in public safety. So I'll leave it at that, and probably in the near future we'll come back and talk about small tools line item where handguns and those type of things are purchased at, and radios and other safety equipment, and those type of issues that are going to cause the 2023 budget to not be in line with what's said.
So, Sheriff, my understanding has been that we operate bottom line budgets where we have a bright line between personnel accounts that pay benefits, wages, et cetera. On the other side, we have O&M, ops and maintenance. And then over here, we have capital expenditures for special capital expenses. But within that largest part, the personnel piece, we don't take money out of that and move it into the other. And I've not seen you do that. And we don't take money out of that middle part, the ops and maintenance, and move it into personnel. And I haven't seen you do that. What you're discussing about uniforms and expendables and supplies, as I understand, it's all in that middle section, and it's a bottom line budget, and there's no prohibition on you shifting as you need to. Has anyone suggested otherwise?
Nope.
Okay.
Just for the inquiring public and for your all's knowledge, these are the type of issues that cause budget problems in law enforcement agencies. Because you are absolutely right. 80% of a law enforcement budget is FTEs and contracts and those type of things. But as you recall, Commissioner, when I took office, we had broken handguns, not enough radios, you name it. And we went out and we sought grants to replace all that stuff, to bring everything up to standard and into compliance. And then we started with a budget request every year to slowly replace handguns, rifles, so on and so on, radios, et cetera, et cetera. And so that we could maintain it and we weren't back to a, hey, you're broke, you can't have things type of process. And actually, I'll tell you, I'm offended, and I'm tired of being accused by the Franklin County Auditor and his staff of that I'm wrongdoing or I'm overspending. I'm an honest, transparent person. I'll have a receipt for everything if it comes into question how I spent a tax dollar in this county. I'm pretty good at that, and I don't need someone else controlling how I spend money or how I operate the sheriff's office.
I have a couple of questions. I'm curious to where the employees or the undersheriffs would have to pay tax on their uniforms. I mean, that's a piece of clothing that cannot be worn outside of their job duty. So it's I don't see how that could be.
That's a mid-level auditor talking about things he doesn't know anything about. It's saying that they're going to do that, but it's going to stop.
The other question I had was on the, you said the salary, or I'm sorry, the budget for uniforms was $70,000. It was reduced to $15,000. But wasn't the $15,000 only for like dry cleaning?
No.
That's what I remember. Something being reduced.
Somewhere along the line, we put in for 70,000. Dry cleaning would come out of that.
Okay, that's where I thought, well,
But
maybe
what
that
we
was a
did is
confusion
we
there.
combined all uniforms and safety equipment into one line item, so it was easy and trackable. And we set that, well, we tried to give you an honest estimate of what it's going to cost for a fiscal year. It was $70,000 in 2022, and then in 2023, and quite by surprise, I might add, you have to call and find out, well, why is this $15,000? Because that's not right. It's not going to work.
It seems pretty,
Yeah,
pretty low.
somebody's just making a decision going, nah, that's all you get. Well, when you go upside down in the line item, there's an example why.
Well, to go from 17,000 to 15,000 seems pretty unrealistic.
It is unrealistic.
All right, thank you. That's the only questions I have.
Any other questions?
Just, hey, Sheriff, just one. All those things that you were discussing, uniforms, boots, et cetera, all that's in your current expense side of your budget. None of that's over in a separate capital item?
No.
Okay, all right.
No. These are just like maintenance type of line items.
I was just trying to figure out how somebody might construe it the way it's been construed, and
Yeah.
and if it's in the current expense, I don't see the issue.
It's in your budget. You have control of it. Is there any other elected or department heads?
Has to be after that. Really quickly, it's important, for starters, there seems to be a misunderstanding on the roles of different electeds in the courthouse. As the auditor, we have, yes, very talented staff, and if in fact they're making inquiries, they've got the information, whether it's changes from the IRS, whatever it is, they certainly are professionals in their field, and they're making those inquiries. I'm, on an individual basis, I have good staff, just like I'm sure every department has, whether it's the sheriff's office or the treasurer or anywhere else. They're professionals in their field with a lot of experience, and they have to be, and I know this, the idea that the auditor can make any kind of a change. You three gentlemen know, You control the budget. You make changes at the end. I have nothing to do with that. This function, when I say the audit function. The audit function is merely reporting on the policies and rules that are in place. And I got to tell you, whether it's the thing we're going through right now with the discussion of how the conversion of this the healthcare to cash, whether it's going over on a meal expense, or whether it's how we handle the county monies through either state or federal standards. We're just reporting, and in fact, if we don't do that on behalf of you, you have no control at all. So I don't, and whether or not line items are going over, underspent, any of that, we're a reporter. That's what we're here for. And in fact, we apply the same travel policy. It's very well known that some people are harder to work with than others in this county, and they understand each other's roles, whether it's the assessor who's now reassessed everybody's property and has the burden of explaining that, to the public, or internally, as the auditor, we draw the internal expense side of it. And I know it's not popular. It's not popular when you go over, or it's not popular when someone explains, hey, per diem, per the policy, and we go to the policy can be changed by the board. Per the policy, we work on per diem. We don't work on receipts. Now, you don't have to like it if you're in this process, but until it's changed, it governs the process. And so whether or not on this, whether someone reads the CBA and has to implement it, absolutely, the number one control is the elected sheriff. Worked with Sheriff Latham for years. And despite the criticisms that go on in politics, he did things right, and he also made mistakes. Just like the current sheriff or anyone else that's in this courthouse, we all do the best we can, and stuff happens. But we're all accountable to each other, and it's this thing like, this is gonna stop, you're gonna pay the bill, I don't follow policy. As auditor, look, we're separately elected, and so we can make these, we can do this, but in the end, I still have the statutory responsibility, whether it's me or someone else. And, I'm not, there seems to be a misunderstanding on, I guess you can choose not to follow the policy, but then it doesn't make things go away. And so whether there's some kind of misunderstanding, it is a back and forth. And I do have good professionals that work in my office, and to attack them on a professional level, like they don't know what, with this kind of language, it forced me to come to the mic and have this. So there is other ways to have these discussions. They don't have to be so public, but we work for the public, so if that's where it's supposed to take place, I guess we'll do what we do. So thank you.
And I like open and transparent government.
I'm certain every elected I know in this courthouse works to that end. So it's just sometimes we get wrapped around the axle and personalities and get in the way of it, and we all have our own personality, so we got to keep working together on behalf of the public. So thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other electeds that'd like to come forward?
Started an arm wrestling contest here. So commissioners, I came for you a few weeks ago and told you that we're about ready to send change of value notices. Not necessarily a popular thing for a lot of people, okay? And I'm sure you got some phone calls, and I told you, be ready for the phone calls. And my comment was, tell them to call my office, please. Okay, we want to interact with the public that has questions on this. We want to show them. Now, yesterday we had over 100 phone calls. I would say 90% of them were satisfied when we got done with the phone call or more, because we have the statistical data, vast amounts of it, to show the change of values. The big misconception is people think if their assessed value goes up, their taxes are going up like that percentage. And they don't. And literally, some people have brought up the fact that, well, the school district is on a rate base, therefore if the assessed values goes up, they still get their so much levy rate, and it goes up automatically then, and the schools are no longer on a rate base, they're on a budget base. The rate base went away after they got done with the courts, after about the 4-year period of time, and the schools are back to a budget base, which means Every time assessments come out, we have no idea what people's taxes are going to be until you folks pass a budget. The city passes a budget, the fire districts, the hospital districts, everybody passes their budget, sends us their budget numbers, and then we calculate that into what the assessed values are to determine what the taxes are going to be for people. It is statistically, historically true that if assessments go up, the county and the other taxing districts now can only raise their taxes by 1%, their budgets by 1%, not the taxes, the budgets by 1%. And if that's the case, then that gets divided out and levy rates will go down. Last year we saw about 50 cents per thousand go down. So somewhere between $8.50 dropping down to say $8 per thousand. So I'm not going to say that we'll never find errors in it. We maybe haven't been in somebody's house for a while. Maybe they wouldn't let us in their house, and now we're saying it's 3 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms, and it's really 1 bathroom and 2 bedrooms. They need to bring that to our attention. Then we need to get out and verify it. So please, public, call, people, call, talk to our professionals. They are fully accredited. They're professionals in what they do. They've got the data. If there's errors, we'll fix them, okay? If there's not, that's why you commissioners appoint a board of equalization for them to hear the cases. And if they're not satisfied with that, there's the Board of Taxation Authority within the state. We're operating like the other electeds under statutory requirements to do what we're doing. And even though we've seen the increases this year, I'm telling you, we're not out of line overall as a whole. We're just not. That's what has occurred in this county for assessment values. So please have them call our office, okay? We welcome the calls. We welcome the visits. It may take us a few hours to get back to them, but I guarantee you every single person will be gotten back to, and we'll do our due diligence to give them as much information as possible. So any questions, commissioners? Yes.
Questions?
So, first off, I appreciate your continuing to educate the public on important points like just because your assessed value went up doesn't mean your taxes go up. In reality, it's how much yours went up relative to everyone else's. Yours may have gone up, but if everybody else's went up more, then your actual tax would likely go down.
Correct.
Second point, the card that you send out with the new values has some good information. I'm not sure people read it very closely, but one of them is that you actually base these assessments on actual sales, and that you do those in a sector at a time each year. And this year, if I remember right, it's 182 up to Burns, I think maybe, and from, I don't know, over by the airport over to about Road 84. Anyway, it's that block in there that you looked at this time around.
That's a physical look at.
Right.
We do the entire county, all of it, statistically, but 1/6 of the county gets physical eyeballs on it.
Well, and that's where I was going with that preamble is you don't look at values in that 1/6 and then mathematically project that on the others.
No, each area is statistically looked at themselves, even though they may not be in a physical evaluation for that year. They are looked at by their neighborhoods, their areas, and the sales that occurred within that proximity.
Right, and
Not the other proximity.
So the sales that happen in that 1/6 of your area, is that rate of growth in values, is that overlaid on the other 5 areas?
No, each area is looked at for their own area, and actually sub-areas within those are looked at. Neighborhoods within those 6 areas
Okay, so what's
are
different
looked
about
at
that?
every year.
What is different about that 1/6 that you're
We
talking about?
physically go out, take
Well,
pictures, update pictures.
I get that, but is there anything different about that 1/6 than the other 5?
No, other than we're physically out there looking to see if there's been improvements that are physical to our eyeballs, add-ons, new
But
construction
what you
that we
see
didn't
there
know.
doesn't affect the other 5
Does not.
areas? Okay.
Each neighborhood subset of those 6 areas is looked at every year statistically, just not physical eyeballs. We
Okay,
get
all right.
1/6 of it with
All right.
physical
So-
eyeballs.
So that 1/6 part that it talks about on the card is really about you keeping your records up to date over a 6-year cycle, essentially?
Correct. We are
Okay.
mandatorily required statutorily to a minimum of once every 6 years
Okay.
have physical eyeballs.
And the other thing, if I recall, that I noted on there is that the comparator sales that you're using are from 2022. And there are people who are seeing homes over the last 6 months selling in their neighborhood, and they're seeing that some prices have actually gone down. And they're saying, this place just sold for $375. They forget that last year it was selling for $420.
Yeah, we have a cutoff as of January 1st of this year. We review all sales that occurred in 2022 to establish the assessed value for 2023, which establishes the taxes for 2024.
Right, so it might be helpful if people knew that the assessed values are predicated on estimated values as of December 31st last year.
Well, and not even estimated at that time. They're actual appraisals based
Well, okay,
on
yeah,
sales that have occurred.
values,
And-
let's just call it assessed
Yeah.
values.
And in some ways, I'd like to almost or change the word from assessed to actually appraised, because we actually are doing a mass appraisal. We appraise all of these.
Okay, all right.
And-
Well, anyway,
Which is professional.
the purpose in bringing it up is that I know of a property in a particular neighborhood that is probably down 20% in value because of that particular neighborhood, which is uncharacteristic, I realize. But the assessed value is actually fairly accurate for last fall.
Yeah, yeah.
And so people just need to remember, when you're looking at that appraised value, assessed value, that it's reflecting the sales last year, not this year.
Correct. And again, the sales that may be occurring right now, maybe the market is softened in some areas right now, doesn't mean it'll stay softened and it'll be that way by the end of this year, January 1st of next year. They could come back, and then, of course, we,
Yeah, well, the
reflect
converse is that if values had gone up dramatically in the last 6 months and you were basing this on last fall, people wouldn't be quite so alarmed. They'd probably be okay with that.
we follow the market, we don't set the market. And many people think that we set it, and we don't. Now, that doesn't mean that, that there isn't corrections that could be done. I know of a couple of corrections we made in our office yesterday. People bring it to our attention. Because if we don't see certain things or are aware of certain things, then they bring it to our attention, we certainly look at that. They have until July 3rd to give us a call, see what we've got, be satisfied with it, and/or file the appeal, and they have to do that by July 3rd. If they don't hit that deadline, then they lose out on the ability to appeal that case if they can't come to a satisfaction with our office on talking with us. So, and we encourage all aspects of that. That's the neat thing about transparency and openness. You know, we support what we've done, but we won't close our eyes to other new facts that people bring in and information. And we certainly encourage people to exercise their right to challenge what we've done if they disagree with it. That's what that Board of Equalization is for. So we encourage people to follow through with all of that. Anyway, any other questions?
And that
Yes.
Board of Equalization is their neighbors.
The Board of Equalization is made up of 3 individuals from this county.
Yep.
They statutorily must adhere to the state statutes. They go to training sessions. They have to meet that. And then, of course, either party, us as a county, the assessor's office, or an individual, if they disagree with that Board of Equalization, can appeal it to the Board of Tax Authority, the Department of Revenue. So, and that has occurred both ways. We've appealed things, individuals have appealed things. That's part of the process that we have on that. So, but we don't want to discourage people from calling our office. And we don't want people just going around disgruntled. We want them to get with us, call, look at the data. Go onto our website. We have so much information and data. If you go into the website and go into real property, go down to data, you can go into every neighborhood and look at every sale that took place in 2022, every sale in your residential area, in that area, dozens of them, areas. Some might have 90 sales, some might have 6 sales. But we show every single sale that occurred in 2022. We track all that data. So it's on our website.
How big an area do you use? If you're looking at a particular property, are you looking at all the other properties in that 1/6 or?
No, we look in that, first, we break it down by neighborhoods, which is way smaller than 1/6.
Right.
Maybe we've got 50 neighborhoods within those 6 areas.
Okay.
And so we try to keep, and then we break it down by like homes. A single family with a basement is different than a single family.
Sure.
A 2-story is different. A single family with a dormer is different than a 2-story. All of that has to be looked at.
So if somebody's looking at comparator sales, should they be looking within 5 blocks of their home or 5 miles or what?
Our website will literally show them,
Where it was
even within a
compared.
map, and all sales that took place are color-coded by percentage that we've assessed it according to,
That'll do that by property, by address?
yeah, if you know the area you're in. If you know your neighborhood, then you can go in and look up that neighborhood in our website.
Okay.
If you don't know your neighborhood, call our office. We'll tell you what neighborhood you're in. And we have all of that data there, maps, every sale. We're transparent as can be if we can just get people to look at it. Very transparent on it.
And in all fairness, John, I've got mine sitting right in front of me. Both cards has your name, the phone number, the website, the other piece of paper, same thing.
Yeah.
All they gotta do is call.
Yeah, we publish that, and on the back, I'm sure that it covers the senior exemptions that people may qualify for. The papers are on there. We encourage people to reach out to us. Some of the qualifying incomes are going to change by August 1st. They're going to increase in this county significantly, and we're telling people, call us, talk to us. Don't just come in and get upset because we say we have to have your supporting documents to show your income. Well, I ain't giving it to you. Well, we can't give them something that we can't verify. We're audited and we're under statutory requirements to do things the right way and professionally, and I will not have my office do it any other way. But we'll bend over backwards if you can get us what we need and to do what's right. It's the right thing.
And if we could have an influence on our legislature, they could look into doing what California has done, which I wouldn't say that in too many things, but Proposition 13 in the Williamson Act, you pay taxes on what you pay for the property. And it all equals out to where we're going with this.
And up until about 3 years ago, people smile like crazy on that. The last 3 years, some people wouldn't be too happy with the Prop 13 comparison, but only
Right.
because of how much we've seen in this county.
Right.
And many counties are going backwards. Snohomish, King County, they're softened. Clark County went up, went right back down. They pretty much stayed level from their assessor I spoke with. We are in a unique market here. We have not softened like many other markets have, and even certain areas that may have softened, as Commissioner Peck had mentioned, they may come back before the end of this year. We have decreased housing being built. There's still a demand for it. If the interest rates turned and dropped down, you're going to see this rocket ship take off sky high again and fast. So I don't know what the market's going to do, or I'd be a multi-billionaire, not a millionaire, because you could speculate. But certainly, we're going to be fair, equitable across the board. If everybody's taxes got raised by 20%, the assessed values, your taxes aren't going up 20%. If everything went up exactly the same and all taxing districts can only go up 1%, then guess what? It's going to have a 1% impact on you. Barring bonds that have gotten passed, that school bond isn't calculated in yet, that will certainly have an impact on everybody. Just truthfully, it will. It's not in this year's taxation, it's in next year's. So, and it's not part of the assessed value, it is added on to everything, so.
All right.
Any other questions?
What would you say is the average increase in assessments?
It's really tough to say. I can say I have seen certain areas, land values went really high and housing values didn't go up as much. And we're basing that on sales of that particular neighborhoods and markets. In other areas, the lands kind of stayed the same and housing went up. You have to look at the bottom. What is the total? Don't try to break it down and say, well, my land did this, the house did that, and I'm upset because the land shouldn't have done that and the house did. You got to look at the total. We would love for the state legislature to say, we propose one number. We give you the final number and that's it. How much is applied to land, how much is house? Because the Board of Equalization has to look at it that way. They have to look at what the total amount is. We ultimately have to look at the total amount and can't go over that on the assessment, but what do you apply towards the land and what do you apply towards the house? And that depends on what the sales are in those areas, on how you do that. You still can't go over the total. So my neighborhood, I'll give you that. Last year, we went up 19% in my neighborhood. I didn't look at it until after change of values did it. Nobody knows my property. It's all done statistically and by numbers. I didn't go in and look up John Rosenau's property and say we're assessing it this way. It's done mass. It went up 19% last year on average. My taxes went up 5%. Assessed value went up 19%. Was not equal to, same. This year, I saw about an 18% increase on my property in that particular area. So last year when mine went up 19%, the state went up over 30% on average across the state. We ended up with our audit to the state at 4.6. We were 15% under what we were supposed to be at on our audit. We're going to be much closer to the 100% this year. I can just tell you that. We will be. Market adjustments, we're trying to bring things up. We're going to be much closer to the 100%. The data I've seen thus far, we're running between 89 and 95 on all the neighborhoods. That's early data, okay? So I think we're going to be much closer to the 100. I really do. But we won't know till the audits are done.
All right, thank you.
Anything else? Okay, thank you. Encourage them to call, please.
I have.
Okay, I'm sure.
John, I can't help but be a smart aleck, so hang on here.
What do you got here, Jim?
I have .78 acres of grass,
Yeah, you
of
guys need to
dirt,
buy this from him.
of dirt, okay,
Yeah.
that's in the donut hole that has a moratorium that you can't build on, you can't hook to city sewer, you can't hook to city
You
water.
can't build on that, Jim?
Nope,
Do we know that?
I do know that.
Do we know that?
Yeah,
do we know
I
that
heard
now?
I heard it from Nikki.
Okay.
So hold on, just let me finish being a smart aleck and then I'll be done. So, in last year, that .7 acres of dirt, 7-8 acres of dirt was valued at $140,000. This year, $277,000.
With no utility access?
That's correct.
No water, sewers, and
Yeah.
0.77.
time to sell.
But I know donut hole areas that are .44 with no sewer, no water, nothing there that are 200,000 for .44 right now. Not assessed value, selling for that. So
2,500 block of Road 44.
if the commissioners will approve him, since it's in the county in the donut hole, to be able to build, he'll be able to get more than that out of that piece of property. So Jim, you need to at least address that, get them to change the zoning.
Sorry for stirring there, Road.
That's okay.
Is there any other elected or department heads that'd like to come forward? Okay, we'll move down to administration office business. Mr. Gonzalez.
We do not have any today.
Nothing today. Okay, so we're down to public comment. Anybody on the phone? Anybody in the audience?
So my name is Brian Thornhill. I'm with Franklin County Fire District 5. I want to thank Dwayne and Clint. They put a lot of time and effort on their own time, after hours, coming to meetings and things like that. So I do appreciate what they did. I am going to talk about the ARPA money, because I came to this meeting about 2 months ago and said, is there ARPA money available? What's the program? Am I going to be wasting my time in following through? Because there is, it was offered up to maybe some fire districts, or at least looked at to maybe utilize some of that money. So I'm sort of curious where it's at now. I've got other people that are involved with other agencies in different counties, and theirs is already a done deal. So I'm just curious about what's going on with this county, because I did put a lot of time and money in, not money, but time, and other people, contractors that I had to get quotes from, they put up time, and I didn't want to put them through that, put myself through it. So, what's the process? I guess that's where I'm at. That these other agencies, I believe one is Kittitas County and Adams County, they've gone through this. The program was more or less, it was challenged by different fire chiefs, and actually went up to Senator Patty Murray, and she had to get involved with it to get it moved forward. So I just want to know what's going on, so.
Mr. Gonzalez?
So right now, we're in the process of allocating the money to either different hospital districts and fire districts. We've worked hard with individual fire districts. So, I would say that there's still time to get into the game. And I'm not familiar with the conversations that you and Brian have had, Commissioner Didier. So I'll give you a call before you leave. Let me get your card and let's start the conversation. So I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver, but let's start the conversation and see where you guys are at in your district, because I think, the tenor of the commission and my stance is we've got to keep our folks up in North County safe, and we want every fire district to get represented properly in terms of this ARPA money. So let's start the conversation and see where we go, because there's still time to get into the game.
I don't need to get in the game. I've been in the game. So now I just need answers. So I go by in a month. I've got a meeting tonight with my tomorrow night with my commissioners. So I try and keep them.
Okay.
And so that's where I'm at, is that it's been a couple of months. And again, I don't want to give horse in the mouth. I really appreciate what you guys are doing, but I just want to stay informed. And also the other thing I wanted to say is that so we have to go out for quotes for different companies that supply these engines or whatever we're going to get. And in June, it's gone up 4.5%. So if we're asking, say, for $500,000, we've now lost between $20,000 and $25,000 just because of inflation. So
yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's start the conversation, and I'll get up to speed with Fire District 5, because I'm more familiar with some of the issues in the other fire districts that we've been working with. So 5 is one that I haven't been actively engaged in.
5 is on the, it's already on the list.
Yeah, it's already, that's what I thought was already
5 is
allocated.
already on the list,
Yeah.
but what he's saying is they're losing value due to inflation.
Okay, so we just need to kind of get
We need,
moving and
we need to
grooving.
get these funds.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. So, okay.
All right, is there anybody else for public comment?
Good morning, Gati Sant, Franklin County. I just wanted to wish everybody happy Pride Month. I'm a proud mother of a queer child, and I'm so thankful they have this month to celebrate inclusion and visibility. So you guys talked about transparency in the meetings, and I've just noticed a habit of a few times there's been items brought up that have not been on the agenda. And there's times when you won't take a vote on things that are on the agenda because the public didn't have enough time to discuss those things or give their input, but yet you vote on things that are brought at the last minute in the meeting that were not on the agenda. So I just wanted to address that. And also, last week set another bad precedent when you took a phone call when it was not done during a public comment period. So I'm a stickler for rules. That's just my personality. So I just wish that there would be maybe some rules governing this body of commissioners. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Hi, I'm Chris Hollingsworth. I'm a certified residential appraiser. I've been an appraiser in our area for about 18, 19 years. I'm here for a couple of things. One, I want to let you know John has a really tough job with appraisal. It's a mass appraisal. It's way different than what I do. I do an individual appraisal. And I feel he does the best that he can with the tools that he has and the rules and laws that he has to follow. I guess what I'm here for is I did reach out to his office on Friday. I let him know that I was a certified appraiser and I'm willing to offer my services for consulting for free, because while he says that his staff are appraisers, they're accredited with the Department of Revenue. None of them that I'm aware of, correct me if I'm wrong, John, that actually have any fee appraisal experience. So they're doing their best they can with the information that was passed on by another accredited appraiser with no experience. So what I'm here to offer my experience to help them. The sheriff mentioned that I live real close to the sheriff, and my land value went up 100,000. I just had the tools at hand. I quickly did a sales search and found that vastly, almost 100,000 overassessed just on a few sales. And not to get into the weeds and the details, of highest to best use and things like that. I feel that they could use, the assessor's office could use some consulting from fee appraisers, not just myself, but I know there are other appraisers in the area that would be willing to help out our citizens, our community. And the other thing, according to affects the sheriff and myself, as far as I know, the assessor's office doesn't have a way to earmark. They like what John was trying to explain. They have neighborhoods, and they as a whole apply the same tools to the whole neighborhood. But for the sheriff and excuse me, for myself, I live close to the freeway, and the freeway noise is very noticeable. There's no way, ands, ifs, or buts. You can see the freeway. You can hear the Jake brakes going down the decline, which I wish there was a sign there, but that's a different thing altogether. But they have no way to earmark those properties. The sheriff lives near the I don't know, the flight path. And I don't know if that's the reason why he can't build. But they're assessed as if they had no external influences, which isn't the case. So I don't know if there's a way that John can earmark. I actually had one of your employees over just double checking my patio, make sure it was at scale, because we covered it last year. And I was telling him about that, and just then, it was on cue. As I was telling about the external influences, semi, Jake brake, and we had to stop talking because the noise of the exhaust brake was so loud. And I'm like, my assessment is exactly the same as a guy a block away that doesn't have that, or 2 blocks away that doesn't have that noise. So anyway, I'm here to let John know that if he would like to consult with me, I would do it free of charge, just to help out his employees. Hopefully give him some help.
Thank you. Anybody else for public comment?
No, sir, no callers.
Anybody? No callers. All right, that moves us down to the first workshop, Public Works. Mr. Erdman.
All right, this is Public Works' workshop materials. Start off by showing what projects 2023's accomplishments. First one is Muse Bridge. Total cost of the project was $1.2 million, and the to-date county share is $5,400. We're at substantial completion with that, which means almost all of the physical work is done, as you can see. And that was probably our major project so far this year.
And Craig, as you do these, would you let people know where the majority of the funds came from?
Oh, I'll try some of it. I'll have to do from memory because I don't think I have that in front of me. This came from, I still have BRAC stuck in my head, but it's from the state bridge funding.
Okay.
These are generally, they're very close to they're either 90%, sometimes they're 100% funded. So, and Public Works staff has done an excellent job of utilizing the funding and grant opportunities that come to us and maximizing them.
Does that come through CRAB?
Not this particular one. This is from local programs.
Okay, all right.
Is that the bridge located at Self Landing and Richview?
No, this is up north in by Connell.
Okay, thank you.
And we finally have the guardrail replaced on Burke Canyon. It took a while with working with FEMA to get everything lined up, but the physical work is done. We've just got to tie up some of the paperwork, and the project cost was $603,000, and we believe the county share will be about $61,000.
And on that project, I see the metal posts.
Mm-hmm.
Is that now UMHW between the post and the guardrail? Or what is that material there? Because I was looking at a guardrail the other day and I thought it was UMHW, which is a plastic material instead of wood.
Yes, those are, that's correct. They're a little bit better blocks. They're more stable, they don't rot.
Right.
And
longer lasting.
Longer lasting,
Good
yeah.
stuff.
We went to bring, since this area is probably, prone to fire in the future, hence we went to the more updated steel posts. When the fire originally ran through there, honestly, there were some of the wooden posts that were completely obliterated. There wasn't even a stop in the hole. It was like it was never there. So, yeah. So we're happy that we finally have that done, and it will probably seem visually a little different to people because guardrail standards have changed since the original went in, and it is now a little bit higher. So it looks strange to me because I was old school and I was used to the designing to the old, but it turned out really nice. Gurney did a terrific job of putting in the guardrail. This one was on behalf of county administration. The VA's parking lot had some severe drainage problems and stuff, so we were asked to kind of look at it and try and get it brought up to where it won't be an issue. And I think we've done that. The drainage issues have been addressed. This should last the VA for decades with minimal maintenance. But if we had just gone in and just overlaid what was there before, we'd have been addressing this problem again in 5 or 6 years. So we went in, we did it right. This parking lot will last for a good long while.
And what was the cost on that?
80,000. Oops, sorry, I got an extra zero in there. You have to forgive me, PowerPoint is not my friend. So it's $80,400.
All right, thank you for the correction.
It says 100% local funds. Was that money raised for that?
No, this is through, we were asked by county administration to take on this project because this is not a county road function.
Right.
So this is reimbursable back to county administration. And this process started several years ago.
Okay.
We also did a safety project again this year. You can see the total cost was about $450,000 and the county share was $8150. Again, Public Works staff has been doing a terrific job of leveraging our grant opportunities and keeping the cost to the county relatively low.
Have we got that sign on 68 getting moved to where?
Well, I have to talk to City of Pasco because there's been some boundary changes since we scoped that project. So we'll have a talk with them.
Okay.
Yeah, things seem to happen rapidly in that area. So this is new that we just implemented on Monday. It's a gravel road blading map, and it's there for the public to show roads that are scheduled to be bladed this week and roads that had been recently completed, and some information of other relevance to them. We have some mag chloride, what shows which roads have been mag chloride and so forth. We're hoping this will help the public to understand, how the maintenance cycle works and where we're at. And if they have a situation where the road has deteriorated badly and they don't see it coming up in the blading, that they can get a hold of us and start a service request, and we'll get out there and take care of it. But we wanted to have a public-facing map to them to kind of let them know, hey, this is where we're going to be at this week, and you know, if your road's getting rough, it's like, hey, we're going to be there. So,
Okay.
and we're looking to expand and do some more maps like this for other maintenance projects and construction work to keep the public informed of what's going on. So we have a really bright GIS technician that's very, very good at this sort of thing. Here's just a listing of our ongoing work, which includes pavement management, construction permits, approach permits, our planning function of reviewing short plats and other planning items for their impact to the road system. We're doing traffic studies to keep track of the traffic in the county and help us utilize our resources. We have, you know, constantly having to keep up on right-of-way files as annexations and new short plats come into the county. We also have, by state law, we have to maintain a road log, which keeps several data points for the roads in it, you know, its length, what it's surfaced with, to any changes that have been made to it, and so on. And of course, we have an ongoing bridge and culvert inspection. And as you've seen kind of some of the fruits of the geographical information system work that we do. But it's much more integrated, and it's getting more so into what we do. And our maintenance on, you know, our blading operations are going on. This will, we're going to be away from blading for about 10 days as we move into chip seal, which is going to start, well, to tomorrow. So that we'll cut down. We'll be blading on an on-call basis for the next 10 days to 2 weeks.
Where's that chip seal going to take place?
Off the top of my head, I think some of it's, I know we're going to do self-landing. I saw that. We do have a map on the site, and I did not. I was going to bring it with me, and I forgot.
But you're going to have the map on your website too.
Yes, we have a map on our website that shows where
so people can avoid the area.
Yeah, and we're going to look to upgrade it to something like you saw with the gravel road map, so we can, you know, like this is where we are today, or whatever. But that's probably going to be next year. So. Yeah, these are our basic maintenance functions that, you know, go on throughout the year, and some of it's seasonal. As I said, we're in the midst of crack sealing is finishing up this week. The chip seal begins tomorrow. First 2 days is we have a lot of new equipment this year, so we're going to be shaking things down and kind of getting things tuned up. And then we'll, as I said, blading operations will be on an all-call basis until the completion of chip seal, which should last this week and next, maybe into the week after. After that, we'll start striping roads, and then, as usual, we'll be doing general maintenance repair, and we have our annual safety day, which I think we're going to schedule for September this year. These are our upcoming capital projects. We have Basin City Alternative Transportation Improvement, which is a footpath to the school from down Bailey. That's expected to cost about $355,000, with the county putting in about $48,000. And again, we have Glade North pavement rehabilitation, which would be that first mile from city limits to Clark Road. And that'll be we'll be grinding the existing pavement and repaving it. We have Hollingsworth Bridge. I don't know if we're going to do that this winter, or we're going to get it obligated this year, and it might be next winter before we do that. But Ironwood Bridge is the next bridge, and that will take place this winter. And then we have the Taylor Flats Taylor Flats Road and Ringgold Road Safety Improvement, which is to make adjustments to that intersection there to improve the flow of traffic and safety. We have Vineyard Drive East Bridge replacement coming up. North Railroad Avenue project, which we've got funding for, as well as for Vineyard Drive West and the intersection with North Railroad Avenue. And Taylor Flats is all-weather improvement is, hopefully, we've been funded on that. I don't know if we're full funded, but we at least have PE, and we'll be getting onto that. And then coming up before the board here at the end of the month is our 6-year transportation plan. So any areas or projects you want us to look at to include in that, please reach out to us, and we will get that for the public hearing. These are our long-term goals. As I kind of alluded to earlier, you know, we've had a lot of turnover at Public Works the last 2 years, you know, just people naturally moving on and retiring. So, you know, we're continually training staff. We're looking to always be better. We work in a highly technical field, and we have to stay on top of things. We're also looking to work on a better 20-year transportation plan. I want to do a level of service evaluation for the county road system because, as you know, we have limited resources and we need to figure out where's the best place to use those resources. You know, we're always looking to improve our maintenance management practices, you know, strengthen our financials, and as I said before, we want to add additional maps to the website. And we keep working on our strategic plan and work plan. And that's all I have.
Questions, commissioners?
And I apologize. Like I said, PowerPoint, that's not my best suit.
Just for, by the way, good information. Appreciate the update. For future updates, if you would just maybe make some notes. I think it's really important for the board to see where the funding flows from.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was looking for more, you know, general overview, and I will add that information.
Well, just on the projects, you know, when we have a project and, you know, we're responsible for 100, 200,000, but there's another $1.5 million coming from somewhere else. I just think it would be good educational point for everybody where that money's coming from.
Bad oversight on my part.
And we all know where it's coming from. It's coming from taxpayers. But whether it's federal or state washed out or, you know, whatever it is.
Yep. I will make a note to include that.
And I just want to thank Craig. He's a positive force and good energy, and we're really fortunate to have someone with such institutional knowledge and someone of his caliber. They've got a good department. So I want to thank him for all his efforts and for a robust presentation, and kind of brought an idea to my head. I'll talk to you offline. Is with the social media platforms now that we have, we can certainly get some of those messages out there when you're doing some road services.
I think that would be
so that'd be helpful.
Great.
So yeah. So thank you.
Oh, thank you for a great job, and thank you for securing those grant dollars and lowering the cost to.
I have a really good staff. They're very, very good at that.
Yes, they are.
And,
So thank you.
We're making progress. Wish there was more, but.
So, Craig, couple things. I got some questions. Sorry.
So, no,
I
that's
always
okay.
let them go first.
No, I know.
Okay.
That's okay. I'm sorry.
So one project I really want to move up on the list is the Road 68 truck access off of 68 onto Dent.
Okay.
And that it would be a very simple, just a curve. We're still getting trucks hijacked, trying to make that more than a 90-degree corner there onto Columbia River Road and then onto Dent Road.
Okay.
I think that would really aid the access of trucks to use 68, which is sooner or later going to be an all-weather road, and it give them the access to get on and head west where they need to take their products. Two, the yard down here on that property, do we have a time frame for cleaning up that yard, that property?
We're in the process right now, as I speak, of assessing and inventorying what's up there.
Okay.
And we'll put together an estimate what we think it's going to cost to get it cleaned up.
Okay.
And there will be, I believe we're going to have some further discussion on that property next week.
Yes, and I know where you're going there, so we'll wait for that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think there's some issues that need to be addressed that happen.
Exactly. Thank you. And then I want everybody to realize that Glade Road, when it comes into the hump yard, that is Pasco's responsibility where all those potholes are.
Absolutely. The city line is right there, kind of where the fence to
Yes.
where the airport would
So
intersect. It's-
people are complaining to me about that. and
Oh, yeah,
I told them
I-
that's not our jurisdiction.
No,
That's the city of
I- you
Pasco.
know, I get frustrated with, I sometimes wish I could just go in there and go fix it.
Yeah. And the other thing is, did you ever work out a deal with the Bureau on that pit up at Mesa for gravel?
Not as yet. We're going to reach out to the Bureau and
Yeah, they've got a pile of rock up there, and I don't think they're going to use it all.
hopefully they'll have some for us. We like that, but I need to reach out and have some talk with them with some other sites, because we would like to run some crushing contracts here in the future.
Yes, we could use gravel on a lot of these roads. I know that one that you
Yeah,
fixed up there.
it's just extremely expensive right now.
Exactly.
But if we can manage to find some areas that we can crush and run our own crushing contract, I think we'll get enough savings to make a difference.
Yes, that could save the county a lot of money. And then the last question I has is, we've had a robust discussion on the access, temporary access. Are we going to see that before the board here anytime soon?
That's it.
Just sort of, it's hanging in limbo.
Well,
It's just-
yeah, we need to there's the matter of the fee schedule, and then the approach policy, and the how the approach policy is brought to the board kind of depends on that first issue of what the fee schedules for the permits are, because that's incorporated into policy.
Okay. All righty, those were my questions. Thank you.
Thanks.
All righty, the next workshop is Office of Public Defense, and the manager is Larry Sanders Ziegler. Colonel Sanders, that is.
First of all, I'm less enamored of PowerPoint than Craig is. I've beaten more lawyers in jury trials that relied on PowerPoint, and I used argument, always managed to win. But having said that, for completed goals and projects, we were able to use the money that you recently approved for us. We brought our wages up to Benton County, and as you all know, Benton was driven by Yakima, and we got driven by Benton. We brought Superior and District Court into line. I don't know how that's going to go from this point forward, quite frankly. This is a process now. Mr. Gonzalez and I attended a meeting, last week?
Yeah, it was a couple weeks ago.
Was it a couple of weeks?
Yeah, it's been quite a while, probably 10 days or more.
And as might be expected, I got a little hot under the collar with Olympia OPD, because I've just reached a point now where I rely on Mr. Gonzalez to keep kicking me under the table, but they just don't understand. I don't think they want to understand. When I told them that basically they had created this situation, in large part, they were a material part of the problem. I mean, we just got silence. There was no response at all. And it was very obvious to a lot of us that had been in the system for 40 years that it just was not going to continue. It couldn't continue. So in that sense, and for planning purposes, it makes it very difficult, because if these richer counties are going to force the smaller counties to cannibalize each other, and that's what's going on. That's exactly how it works. Somebody's going to have to step in and say, stop. That we can't run a system where there's no local control, or very little local control, and no capacity to make plans. I can do short-term work. We added Dimitri here. I've got some money for CLE for the one employee we had, but of course last week my employee's gone. Now he works for Benton County and got a substantial pay raise. So now I'm down to the two contractors and the contractors that we've hired on an as-needed basis. And we're basically negotiating almost every day for additional lawyers to provide coverage. The money you gave us, I was able to cover the 5 homicides. Knock on wood. The thing I heard here today when John was talking, in terms of planning, if we're going to grow as fast as the projections are, in 5 years, we're either going to do now what we need to do to get certain things in place, or we will be so far behind in terms of trying to keep pace with criminal activity in this county. much of which is going to be violent, very violent, and that should be obvious to everybody in the room. We need to start really looking at where we want to be in 5 years, and no more talk. We just got to get it done. Now, I don't know how we're going to do that. I wished I could tell you that my opinion was subject to change, but the numbers are the bottom line in terms of population. The more people that come here, the more criminals you're going to get. And we're getting some real winners. Some very dangerous people are out there on the streets. And we just got to stop looking the other way. Case backlog, the COVID backlog, when I spoke here, I guess 3 weeks ago now, it was a 70-some, 76, 78. As of today, it's down to 50. By the end of the month, it could go back to 70. That's another thing that my office has no control over. I just have to deal with, what's handed to me. So we'll just do the best we can. Dimitri here has successfully applied to the Rule 6 program. He's going to try to read law and get to a point where he's qualified to take the state bar exam. That's a 3 or 4 year program, and I volunteered to tutor him. If we can continue on that program, we'll get him up to what's called Rule 9 status, maybe in a couple years, where he could actually appear in district court. That remains to be seen whether we get to that point, but we're going to try. Goals, reclassify administrative staff. I heard the discussions this morning that you had about classifications and raises, so I'm not really prepared to say anything on that. I think that would be premature until you've had a chance to look at the overall picture. I'm definitely going to continue to try to recruit lawyers. I have to have them. In terms of 3 or 5 year planning, this business of office space and infrastructure, we need to do something now. In the time I've been here, we've talked about purchasing this building or renting that building, this building, that building. Nothing's really happened. But the last thing I would hate to see is where we're just, chasing the train that's just going even faster down the track. And we're way behind in terms of space to work, office equipment, administrative staff. And I just think it's time now we've really got to decide what are the priorities here. One of the things I don't like about my job is I don't really get to set priorities. I got to deal with the priorities that are handed to me. I don't like that. I don't agree with this top-down business that's going on. And I've made that clear to you every time I get a chance to talk. And I've gotten to the point now, even with Mr. Gonzalez kicking me under the table, I'll just look him right in the eye and just tell him what you're doing is wrong. You people over there just don't understand how people in the little counties like us, what we have to do to get the job done, to provide for public safety, representation of appointed defendants. And I'm tired of people from the west side that just talk and talk and talk and say nothing that's of any value to us. Now, I hope that changes. We're going to meet next week.
Yes.
I know that Ms. Torres has got a bill. I read the bill that she's proposed to start giving us some help with money. That's great. But I don't want to see it just disappear into committee and talk, and maybe it doesn't even get to the floor. Or if it gets to the floor, it gets eviscerated. Again, by people that don't really understand and have never made an effort to understand what we deal with on a daily basis over here. That's the breakdown. And that's really all I can say is the key points is continue to try to retain attorneys, contractor employee. Right now, my focus is more on contract. Our one staff employee didn't last very long, but I understand why he left. The case backlog, I think we can deal with that unless we have another pandemic, but maybe our national response to that pandemic will be a little bit better than the first time around. And that's really all I can offer here today. That's where we are. That's where I'd like to get to. That's where we should get to. But I'm not going to tell you that's where we're going to get to. because I don't know.
Questions?
Not a question, but an observation. Counties have been dealing with the state legislature for probably decades now, but certainly years, over the OPD issue and adequate funding. It's the county's position has been, in the position of WASAC, the Association of Counties, that this is a state obligation, not a local one. But unless you've got a legislature that's willing to fund it, that's just rhetoric. In the ideal, they would live up to their constitutional responsibilities and fund all the OPD attorneys. Right now, we're much closer to exactly the opposite, which is where the counties pay almost all of it. We get a little bit, as you know, for extraordinary cases. We have an unusual number of felony murder cases or something. We get a little bit of extra kickback from the state. Especially with the current makeup of the legislature, I don't see a bill coming from the R side of the House getting any traction or going anywhere, especially if it requires the state to pony up real funds. Realistically, I think the most logical approach, and if we can tie this to at least a plausible threat of litigation from WASAC, which is not a secret now, we've talked about it publicly, is to propose a scenario that's not unlike we use for county prosecutors, where the state pays a portion of the salary and the county pays a portion. And you set up a scenario that says, based on county, on a per capita basis or a revenue budget basis, I don't care what, but you calculate how much that county contributes based on their capacity, essentially, and the state backstops the rest of it. Now, even if you could get a good hearing on that kind of a concept, the state would probably flip it and say, well, we'll give you a baseline, but irrespective of your county size, you're going to pay all the rest, because they don't want to take any of the risk in multiple felony murder cases. But I do think that, realistically speaking, we can wish for a lot of things, but anything beyond that sort of a middle ground, I don't see happening. So maybe just something to keep in mind as you're talking to people. You start floating the idea that, well, maybe what we ought to do is the county puts in this amount for every 100,000 people they have, and the state picks up the rest. Because I don't see the state picking up 100% of it anytime soon, if ever.
Ms. Torres's proposed legislation started out, I think, 10% for funding of the total for each county would come from the legislature the first year, then 20, then 30, then 40. But I tend to agree with you. I suspect once it becomes real money, all of what you see over in the legislature now is the touchy-feely. Some of the ideas were good for therapeutic courts, veterans courts. They don't want to pay for any of that. They just want to look good to their voters on that side of the Cascades.
Yeah, and
That's what's going on.
Yeah, and the sad reality, in my opinion, is that for the very same reason that they weren't anxious to solve the Blake issue, I'm not sure that many of the legislators in Olympia would be all that concerned about us saying we don't have the funds for OPD, so we're going to start cutting a lot of people loose without trials. I'm not sure that they would find that very offensive. In fact, they might even strategize in that direction. So
Conceivably.
Yeah.
No, nothing would surprise me out of the legislature.
But I think our real hope lies in that middle ground, and there's two pieces to it. It's the cost share, and you can work on the formulas, but it's the open-ended nature of it that you've already spoken to. That's where a lot of the risk is, and so as we're negotiating this, we want to try and keep that open-ended piece on the state side of the table.
And I will tell you, I think I've said it before, I love this part. This is where the colonel really likes to get back at Mr. Didier. I will be back before the end of the year for more money, because at the rate we're going, just 1 or 2 more homicides, and we may have 5 or 6 more at the rate we're going. I'm looking at Santa Claus.
That's one of my questions. You say the 5 murder cases are handled. You got 50 cases still pending. How much of that 300 is left?
Let's see, we put out $158,000 on bringing up the salaries in Superior and District. We paid the first half, $25,000 a homicide. We paid $12,500 up front. We'll pay $12,500 when the case is completed. So right now, I think we're right around 160 we took out. It's expensive.
And then a suggestion. We want Mr. Dimitri to pass that bar exam, we better look for another Tootle. I don't know if you got it in you, Larry.
Always got to one-up me. That's all I have. OPD will keep treading water the best we can, and
All right,
if times get tough, I'll come back and knock on your door.
it'll be locked.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. We're down, do we have an executive session today? or-
No, sir, not today.
So with that, if there's any.
Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Peck.
Before we close, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't at least take a moment to acknowledge that today is the 79th anniversary of D-Day, June 6, 1944. We lost 4,400 U.S. and Allied troops in that invasion. Of that 4,400, I believe 2,501 were Americans, and it was really the start of the Western Front that ultimately brought us to a conclusion in World War II. But we talk about battles in modern context with modern technology. This is in a day where troops were pouring out of landing craft and getting killed one after another side by side all day, all night. So just keep that in mind today, if you would, as you go forward. We all do our pledge at the start of every meeting, which I think is great. But that liberty that we talk about, liberty and justice for all, would look very different, I think, if it weren't for those 4,400 brave souls. Thanks.
Point well taken. Yes, so if there's no other business for the good of the county, this meeting is adjourned.